Why did I succeed in my life? Because I'm entrepreneurial. Because
except for the bit where you didn't.
So civilly that you'd think the caller and James were old friends, but I do need you to stay tuned for the exact moment the trap is sprung. The caller offers up a simple phrase he thinks will win the whole argument, and it backfires in the most spectacular way. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Now let's watch this together and I'll give you my thoughts at the end.
I heard what you said about your father putting you through the private school system and being made redundant, etc. And in a way, I had a very similar experience. I failed my 11 plus, went to a secondary modern that very quickly became a comprehensive. My wife also went to the same school. We had 2 kids. I've always been a pretty entrepreneurial guy and sort of did quite well in life. But we decided to put our kids through private school. And at one time, my business collapsed. And I said to my wife then, and my son was probably 13 and my daughter was about 15. I said, well, the first thing we do, we take the kids out of school. And my wife said, no, the last thing we do is take the kids out of school.
Gosh.
And, you know, we soldiered on through.
My dad would have been the same as you.
Yeah, I got myself on my feet pretty quickly.
Sure.
And the point is that today my son is a partner in a top 40 accountancy firm. My daughter is a child psychologist. And that is all down to their education. And as for VAT on school fees, that is ridiculous because speaking from my own experience, I wasn't a burden on the state for education. I took my kids into the private system. And therefore...
Yeah, but that's it in a nutshell, Lawrence. Is speaking from your own experience, the suggestion that it should cost more is absurd. But what about the possibly millions of people in this country that would be accountants in top 40 firms if they'd had the education your son had? How can that possibly be fair?
It's not fair, but life isn't fair.
But the job of, you could argue, governments is to make it a bit fairer.
You could argue that, but the reality
I would argue that, actually. I think
But the reality is that you're not being realistic because, you know, why did I succeed in my life? Because I'm entrepreneurial, because
except for the bit where you didn't.
Yeah, you're right. But then again, I jumped back on the horse and did something else. And
does that make you more valuable than a soldier or a nurse?
Makes me no more valuable than anyone else.
And then because you chose. Well, it is because you're talking about the money that you made. You chose a path where wealth accumulation was prioritized over fairness or altruism or other things.
Actually, it wasn't. It wasn't. The only reason that I worked so bloody hard at the time...
Right, this is where you make me uncomfortable, because there's so many people listening to this programme who work, to use your phrase, bloody hard, and will never achieve the sort of earnings that private education can allow.
But they're not, you know, they're not entrepreneurial. And by the same token...
they're altruistic or vocational.
But by the same token, I could have failed. I mean, I was lucky in that I didn't fail.
Yeah, so you're talking about advantage and luck being handed on to your children.
That's life. That's life, I'm afraid.
Of course it is. And the role of a Labour government is to bring in some checks and balances for the greater good, rather than the benefit of children like ours.
Well, if that's what you think, good luck to you.
What do you think the role of a Labour government is?
I think the role of a Labour government is to give handouts where they're not necessarily deserved. Have we got onto handouts? Okay, here's the thing. Because I am more successful than you, I can afford to pay the VAT, so your children can just go swing. No, I'm not saying that.
I am.
I'm not saying that.
I'm more successful than you. I can pay the VAT without. I can pay it easily. It's just tough luck on your children. It's because I work harder than you.
So what you think?
No, I work harder than you. That's all. I work bloody hard, and I can afford the VAT easily, and if you can't, that's tough.
That's got nothing to do with it, James.
That's your argument.
Not an argument. No, it's not.
Life's not fair, Lawrence.
No, life isn't fair.
So your kids can't go there anymore, and mine can. That's just tough.
No, well, that's not the argument.
That is the argument. That's my argument. It's not my fault you muffed up your business.
Listen to what I've got to say.
I have.
No, you haven't.
I have.
The argument is that if I am putting my kids through private school, I am not a burden on the state.
No, the argument is it's going to cost you more.
Yeah, so the argument
if you can't afford it, that's just tough, hard cheddar.
Well, you're right there.
See,
yeah.
Life's not fair.
No,
but on this occasion, it's your children that suffer, not mine.
That's fine.
Good.
So there you have it. And these calls always make me laugh. The guy walked in with what he thought was an impenetrable shield. The phrase, life isn't fair. He used it to justify a system where his kids get a massive life-altering advantage over millions of others. And he claimed his success was all down to him being entrepreneurial, yet casually mentions his own business collapsed and he had to be pushed by his wife to keep going. And when James brings up nurses and soldiers, people who work, arguably very much harder than he has done for the good of society, but don't accumulate massive wealth, the caller had no real answer. His entire worldview is based on the idea that financial success is the only true measure of a person's value. The core of his argument is selfishness. I paid my way, so I'm not a burden, and I owe nothing to the wider system. And you constantly hear these kind of people calling up to radio stations, TV programs, whatever. And James exposed it by showing that the real burden is actually the immense talent and potential our country loses when millions of kids are denied the same level of opportunity. And the final move was a masterstroke. James adopted the caller's own brutal logic. I'm more successful than you. I work harder than you. I can afford the VAT. So if your kids can't afford to go to private school anymore, tough. And by perfectly mirroring the caller's own argument, he forces him to confront his sheer ugliness. And the caller's left with nothing. He's trapped by his own hypocrisy. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.